Hi, everybody. My name is TJ. I am the Director of Partnerships at the Elections Group. For anybody who's joining us for the first time, the Elections Group is a team of election experts who support election professionals through collaboration, thought leadership, and elevating best practices. We've all worked in election offices, so we know firsthand the challenges faced by election officials. We use that real-world expertise and experience to help you solve challenges. I am very excited. I think this is our fourth joint webinar, fourth or fifth, Kyle.
I think
But
fourth.
Amazing. We are hosting this series in partnership with the Center for Election Innovation and Research, as well as the Mechanics of Democracy Laboratory at Arizona State University. That is enough from me. I'm going to turn it over to Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, TJ. Like you said, I'm Kyle Yoder. I'm the Associate Research Director at the Center for Election Innovation and Research. You might know us as CEIR. We're a nonpartisan nonprofit that works with state and local election officials around the country on both sides of the aisle. Our research supports election officials with practical analysis about election administration and informs the public about how elections work in order to increase confidence in our election system. We're also excited to be partnering with the Elections Group and ASU, the Mechanics of Democracy Lab, on this year's Books and Ballot series. This webinar format, this series, we're showcasing the most useful research for election officials from June's Election Science Reform and Administration Conference, or ESRA, which was hosted at Florida State University in Tallahassee this year. And today, we are excited to be joined by members of the team at University of Rhode Island's Engineering for Democracy Institute, or EDI, which is led by Gretchen Macht, although she is not able to join us today. Instead, we're joined by members of her team, including Kushish Katka, Leonie Atta, Sarah Nunes, and Dr. Nicholas Bernardo. EDI uses engineering approaches to make data-enabled recommendations that help election administrators overcome the obstacles that they face. This includes a number of tools to inform improved operations, today's webinar, and efficient voting processes. Several of these tools the team is going to demo with TJ and me as your guinea pigs today. The goal of these demos is just to introduce all of you all in the audience to these tools, so please don't be shy about using that Q&A feature. And I'm looking over my notes. I think I've covered all the housekeeping there, so I'm excited to turn things over to Dr. Nicholas Bernardo to get us started.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for the great introduction and for having us. Audience, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to share my screen real quick and just give you a little bit of background on the Engineering for Democracy Institute, what we do, what our mission is. So I'll take a second to do that. All right, you should be able to see my screen now. So, as Kyle and TJ introduced, we are the Engineering for Democracy Institute out of the University of Rhode Island. So our mission is to take the engineering practices and experience that our team has and apply that within the elections domain in order to make general improvements, address common challenges that are faced in election administration, and hopefully improve the process, make it a bit smoother for election officials when either dealing with big changes, understanding resources, anywhere we can really overlay our expertise in the elections domain. So we introduced the team on this call. We do have an awesome team of collaborators, students, graduate students that aren't on this call, but are always helping us behind the scenes, and we just appreciate all their help. We work with computer scientists, other types of architectural engineers to try and address each individual challenge as it comes. So right now we're operating with 3 core pillars within EDI. Those are services and tools, and we're going to be highlighting those today. But we're also working to expand the Engineering for Democracy Institute into a network of other engineers or STEM professionals to provide support for election administrators throughout the country. We're a fairly small team, so as much as we would want to help every single individual county and jurisdiction, we know that we don't necessarily have that bandwidth currently. So we're building a network to train individuals that can help in the election space as needed. We also are working on different training series to make sure the engineering practices that we have are not isolated just to engineers and STEM experts, but providing some easier resources for people to get their hands on to address common challenges that they face. So if you're wondering how engineers got into elections in the first place, I'll go through a really quick background. So back in 2016, there were a couple polling locations in the state of Rhode Island, our home state, that were experiencing some really long lines. The Secretary of State at the time had a vague notion of industrial engineering and said maybe some folks from URI can help us address some of these issues and make sure we don't experience long lines again. So they reached out to the university. They got put in contact with Gretchen Mocht, our executive director. We thought this was going to be a one-off project. We would help Rhode Island. But we had such great success in 2017 and 2018 with Rhode Island no longer experiencing lines. We started to get interest from other election officials throughout the country. And ever since then, we've grown from in-person voting analysis to vote by mail. And now we're focused really heavily on building tools that anybody could take advantage of completely free of charge. And then working on expanding that network so we can offer help to as many election administrators as we can. So far, our impact, I don't know if this is the most up-to-date map. I think it is. We've had the opportunity to work with about 17 different states, counties within those states. So we've had a great impact on, I think it's something like 25 million voters at this point. And we've just had great experiences collaborating with election administrators throughout the country. So we appreciate all of you and all of the work that you do in elections.
Nick, I see in the Q&A we've got Rhode Island Deputy Secretary of State Rob Rock on. Rob and I co-lead the Tina Barton fan club for anybody who doesn't know. And we always know that if we include folks from Rhode Island, we'll have at least one person join the webinar, and it will be Rob.
Amazing. The movie star.
Kyle, do you want me to jump in directly to showing off, or with Kusha's turn showing off a tool?
Yeah, let's go straight to the tool.
This is a little different than our normal webinars, because everybody's going to learn that I don't know how to do anything. But thankfully, we've got the wonderful engineers from the University of Rhode Island to help us through using these tools. Do you want me to? I'll share my screen if that's good with you.
Yeah,
perfect. All right, here we go. We're going to the wait to vote estimator. I do want to call, before we start talking, special attention to the fact that I believe all of these tools were developed in partnership with the Partnership for Large Election Jurisdictions. That is an amazing organization that serves, true to its name, large election jurisdictions across the country. Feel free to learn more about them, learn more about their tools. But the suite of tools that we're seeing today were done in partnership with them. All right, Kushas, tell me what I need now.
All right, TJ. So as you already mentioned, this app was built in collaboration with the Partnership for Large Election Jurisdictions, Pledge. So the purpose of this app is to help election officials and voters estimate wait times at a polling location. It is based on the various numbers, like the number of voters in line and other key details about the location. So as you see in the screen, on the left-hand side, there is a small panel. So if you click on it, you will get other information about the app. Yep. And so what each steps is about as well. You can close that for now. I think we should dive straight into the app itself.
All right.
So let's imagine like we have 40 voters in line for now.
40 voters, okay.
And the ballot information. So let's say we have 5 number of referendums.
Very good.
2 office questions.
All right.
So in steps to vote, we have technically 5 steps, but application to vote is not that common. But in some jurisdictions, voters fill out a piece of paper with their name, maybe an address. So it is easier for the workers to get them checked in. So for our use case, let's remove that, which we have already done.
Removed.
So let's say we have 1 check-in station and 10 ballot marking station.
All right.
And the third step, ballot receipt station, is also not that common. So we can remove that. If you need information about each steps, like there is a tooltip icon right next to it. So you know what each steps is about. So let's say for our use case, we have 2 ballot scanners.
Bam.
And if you estimate the wait time, you can see that the wait time is 38 minutes. Like it's a lot of time. Like you don't want people waiting more than 30 minutes. So let's say like we increase the number of check-in stations to 2.
Ooh.
See, it's decreased by almost half.
Oh, we just got oh my gosh, it's lunchtime.
Yep, it's a
Lunchtime.
huge
What are we gonna
line.
do? Oh no. Oh dear. I'm gonna need to take a long lunch.
Yeah,
Okay.
you need a bunch of check-in stations and I think other stations as well.
Let's see. Oh, I got it down to 36 minutes.
Yep.
I'm not getting fired.
So the processing times are generated by data collected from the EDI team across all the country. So the estimated wait time is based on our data.
And I think, I've been familiar with this tool for a little while, and I think one of the big benefits that offices could get from it is mapping out, and we'll talk more about polling place layouts, but kind of getting an understanding through this modeling of how different changes, how different resourcing can affect the operations within a polling place. So I think that that's very helpful. Kushas, I understand that there is a possibility of folks being able to set this up with an API to like do a wait time estimator on their website with.
Yeah. So basically what folks could do is like they could just put the voters in line and all the backend would handle the ballot information and the number of checking stations, ballot marking station based on their location. And what we could do is like I don't know, like a poll worker could estimate the wait time, and that wait time could be visible through an API in their website or like wherever they wanna like showcase the wait times. So API is definitely a way to go for this cases.
Yeah, and I had a election official when they saw the announcement for the webinar, they reached out about early voting. There's no distinction for this tool between early voting and election day voting, right? It's all about the resources applied.
Yeah, it's all about the resources applied. Yeah, true.
Okay. I'm just gonna do one more just to show folks. So say I've got 100 voters in line. My old jurisdiction, we loved our referenda. So I'm gonna say 10, and we had 15 candidates on the ballot. We usually had like 3 check-in stations, but 20 ballot marking stations, and always had 2 ballot scanners. So let's see how we would do. 33 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, just with some quick changes, adjustments to your resources, adding a different number of ballot scanners, adding some more ballot marking devices or ballot marking stations, you bring those numbers down. So it's a really helpful and quick way to kind of model how those easy adjustments in resourcing can make a difference.
Yep, that's right.
Any other notes about this? I know we've got the link to this in the chat, I believe, or I will put it there for folks to see. There it is.
We have a question in the Q&A.
Oh, what we got?
Timothy Lundberg asking, do we have ability in this tool to identify where the weight will be aggregating, kind of where the bottlenecks in the process will be? It doesn't appear to tell you immediately, but maybe my thought would be that you could try out different inputs and kind of see how resources at each step would impact those wait times, kind of sensitivity testing, as it were. But does the team have any other ideas on identifying where the bottlenecks in the process are using this tool?
Yeah, Dr. Bernardo, I think you were about to, okay.
Yeah, I got you. So for the purposes of this tool, we wanted a kind of quicker estimate to say, oh, I've got 10 people in line. So it gives an overall wait time. It does account for individual stations. So I can see TJ typing some great numbers in there. So it will aggregate the weight at each station, but it does not break that information down in this current iteration of the tool. However, as TJ was showing, if you start tinkering with the different numbers of resources, that'll help you identify where it is. But I do understand it's not specific on the tool where the wait time is kind of attributed in the process.
And I think for the folks on joining as participants, the check-in station, I imagine, is weighted, usually takes longer. That is oftentimes the bottleneck for election jurisdictions. My old jurisdiction had hand-marked paper ballots. It was nothing to stand up a few more booths or get some tables. Whereas, you know, the check-in process requires a person, requires resources, requires you to have electronic poll books if you're using those, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Well, we can come back to the Q&A, but let's move on to our next tool.
Tony, I think that's you and me. Share my screen now. There we go. Everybody see my screen all right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So let's talk about the vote by mail lead time estimator, where you can like design and define your own vote by mail process with like enter like your information in specific process step, so that you can like kind of simulate your own process. So like what we do a lot with like our simulation softwares, we try to make an easier version of this, which is with a nicer surface, which is tailored for like election officials and especially for the vote by mail process. So let's just play like an example through. So let's think about like this fall, we have a special election. So maybe we have 10,000 envelopes that are getting returned. And because it's a special election small, we have maybe just one ballot card. Like the previous tool, if you need any support, they are like the little E symbols, so you can like look up what each of them mean when you need to look at, but also we have a report and a short video if you need more information like about anything. So afterwards we can add some process steps. So let's add scan signatures, sort envelopes. Let's add manual signature verification. Let's add rescan and sort envelopes. Then open envelopes, extract the envelopes, and tabulation at the end. So we have them all. So we have on the left side kind of like an overview about all the process steps that we have, that we inputted. And in the middle, in the main window, we have like where we can specify our process steps, like where we have like the number of stations for like scan signatures. We may have one station, like one machine, and we have around like 2 staff members who are operating the machine. We can use a default processing time, and we can choose like if like which machine we're using, if it's like kind of by hand with a manual bar scanner that the code on the return envelope is scanned and matched with the signature on file, or with like a high-speed machine. So let's move on to manual signature verification, where we have maybe 10 stations. And per station 2 staff members who are doing it in a team. We're using the default processing time. We can also customize it later on. Let's say we have a manual verification percentile of 45%. So we just add the 45, not a percent symbol. And we have 4 signatures that are checked simultaneously. So we have 4 signatures simultaneously on the screen, which are being checked. And then to like go back to check, to rescan with like a machine to check, sort out the envelopes which couldn't be verified. We have again like one machine with 2 workers. We use the default processing time and the high-speed machine. And then we're moving over to opening envelopes, where we have like maybe 4 stations, and on each station 1 person is working. But let's select a customized. So So far we used the default processing time, which is based on the data that we collected as a EDI team, based on like when we went out over the last years doing elections, observing the vote by mail process. So it's like multiple states, multiple counties where we like kind of like have hundreds of data points for most of the processing stations. But also if you want to like target it more to your own process and you have data points and you want to like input your own, you can add a minimum, average, and maximum value. Please remember the unit in seconds and not in minutes. When the unit is different, like then the value, like the results can be a little bit different, but like let's add for a minimum of 0.1, maybe as an average 0.5, and then a maximum of 0.7. And then we have extract ballots, where we have maybe 5 stations with 1 worker each. And then if we may miss that station, we can add now, like after extracting the ballot, they are folded, we need to flatten them to like tabulate, and we realize, oh, we forgot the station. We have them not together in this one process step, we have them separate. We can add process steps later on. So we go back to our left menu and we just say add step at the bottom and just add like the flatten ballots. And then we just go on the top on the right where we can move process steps around so they're getting back in the right order. Or we can also delete them, for example. So we can also delete the flattened ballots again if we realize, oh no, we have extracting and ballots together. So we're just checking the box off. Yeah, and then the last process step is tabulating ballots, where we have maybe 4 stations and 2 workers per station. So after inputting all these values, which can be from the last election, for example, or how you plan the next election, you can just start running the machine and like the simulation. So it will take a while. We have a little shorter version currently, with like not that many envelopes through the system, but in the end it's a simulation where like it just needs time to calculate everything. So if you're bigger your restriction, it may take longer. So like we have the estimated end time. So just keep the tab open, do something else, drink a coffee.
I think it's important to know. I mean, it's as it's saying, I can keep the tab open, right? Like it's not taking up my computer. If I want to go over to the wait to vote estimator, for example, and play around with those numbers, I can play around here and come back.
I'm just so impressed that you all are able to get that request 1 minute, and then I imagine some of your colleagues who aren't on camera right now have their calculators and they're just going at the calculator. Is that not what's happening, Leonie?
They're like sitting a lot of little engineers in the background and calculating it, like a lot of little brains who are like really high on power and trying to like compute everything for you in the background so that it's like kind of like trying to like compete this all together.
That's not, I will say for everybody's benefit who doesn't, if sarcasm does not come through in webinars or text messages or emails or birthday cards to your wife, I've learned all of these things over time. So I just want to be very clear that that we are kidding.
Yeah, it takes a time to calculate this. So just take like open another tab or to like work on something up and then come back like we did. So, but yeah, the results are up. So let's look at them. So we have the box plot, or we can see clearly that the extraction station has the longest wait time. So the ballots are waiting a long time before they're being processed. It's like close to 4 hours, like 3 hours, 49 minutes. But also like to see to like the average processing time in the whole system, it's 4 within 3 minutes. So like the longest time the process, like the ballots are just waiting before the station. So we can just save the results now on the bottom. So they are saved. Then we click outside of the results window. And then let's just change the number of stations for the extraction. Let's do 30. Let's just like getting it up. And just like, let's run the simulation again. And let's see what it will change. So you can save one simulation as long as you're keeping the tab open. So yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that's occurring to me as we're waiting here, we probably should have said this up front, but all of these apps are available now to everybody who's listening. We're dropping the links in the chat. How much does it cost to use them?
It's free, so just use them, try them out. If you want to give us feedback, there's our email address. Please like let us know what you think about them. And like if you like them, yeah, use them, spread the word.
And it lets you save one simulation so that we can compare them here in a second, but it's not saving any data or like tracking any of that long term. It's entirely a self-contained.
Yes.
You use it, no cost, get your answer, go about your day.
Yeah. So as soon as you're closing the tab, everything is gone. So therefore, like there's also the option of saving the simulation results, especially if you're like running it longer. Probably the first thing, save the simulation results as a CSV file so you can open them later in Excel. Especially also if you're running more simulations to compare them to each other and see what works best. So yeah.
Kyle, I think that this is really awesome, especially in states where I think folks understand that people want election results pretty quickly. They want them on election night, etc. So I can imagine several states where they need to wait to process vote by mail ballots or absentee ballots, wait until election day. You could put in your end time that you're looking for and kind of work backward to make a case for the necessary resources. So that's amazing that all of this work has already been done to make it easy for election officials to bolster that argument.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure we're not the only, everyone on this call, I'm sure, has heard at some point in time the tension between we want fast results. Why can't they be faster? Why can't they be faster? And like, it's a resource constraint, as well as a legal constraint in some cases. But this is a tool I think a lot of folks on this call can find a use for exactly what you're describing, of gaming out just how long is it going to take.
I remember we would staff our vote by mail room, our vote by mail process, and we'd have folks sign up for 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You're going to be here till you're done kind of shifts. So being able to put some inputs in to kind of give a better picture, I think as a staff happiness kind of thing, is also a helpful use case.
Yeah, and also this tool is calculating, because we're inputting like how many staff members you have per like station, it will calculate it. So it's like in the report, like how many workers you kind of need based on your inputs. So you can like kind of like also plan with that, how many workers you need to hire.
Yeah.
Well,
You mentioned yesterday I was asking you as you were walking me through in advance of this call, kind of the difference between the default and custom simulation bit, and what you're describing there, the process in the background is a dynamic one, right? Like it is, as you were describing, taking in all of those different variables, how many resources you're allocating, what is kind of a weighted average of multiple attempts.
So yeah, a simulation is like a dynamic system. Like it's like not like how it would be with like an Excel file where you have like static values where you're using an average. Like what we have in the background is a distribution, so it's like a curve. So it's like randomly assigned for each ballot a different processing time based on the curve that we calculated based on like the data point that we collected. So like it's kind of gives also the randomness of like each ballot takes kind of a different time because every human is different, like takes a different time and then things are happening. So it's like it gives the randomness. And then it's also like if at some station there's a wait, then it's on the other station, there's maybe blocking it up. So it's like everything is kind of connected with each other, and it's not like, because things are happening at the same time. How this is working, that technically all the stations are like staffed at the same time. So like the staff members are sitting there and waiting that ballots are coming so that they can process them. So yeah, it's like kind of helping to find the bottleneck, which for us was an extraction. So we like put it up, we made the higher resources to like try to get the time down to like have a lower wait time in front of the extraction station, and then also have a shorter like in total processing time, how long it takes to process all 10,000 ballots that we had inputted.
And if I can jump in really quickly, I imagine we've fallen into the trap of live demos where the results are not popping up.
But we're gonna keep talking through it, Nick. It's gonna work.
You might be talking for a couple hours, but so if we want
let's jump to Sarah's tool. Sarah, are you cool with that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sarah, I think you wanted to do did you want to have the tool up or no? I'm having the tool up.
Yeah, you can have it
right?
up. That works.
Okay. All right. See, I can remember things. Here we go. Google Chrome. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right, Sarah, tell us about the election warehouse space estimator.
All right. So the main objective of this calculator, there's kind of a few areas that the results will tell you about. But when we were originally designing it, it was to solve the problem of you have ballots that have been voted that you have to store to meet their retention period, but you then have another election that occurs within that same retention period. So what does that compounding look like? And how do you know how many containers you'll need to store them, how much space you'll need to actually be able to either when you're buying or building a new warehouse, know how much space to allocate, or just even be able to figure that out when using a third-party facility. So that was the original purpose for it. And then we ended up actually adding an equipment portion to it as well, so that you can see how much space your actual voting equipment will take up. So as TJ's going through it now, the first question, we're working through the ballot side of it right now, is how many elections are you looking to store? So they're going to store 2 elections for this case, and we have the number of current registered voters in our jurisdiction is 19,000. Oh, I can't read that from here. Sorry.
195,000.
Yep. And then the following question is based on what sorting method is used to store ballots. So this is when you think about how your boxes are actually categorized. So in our case, we say that any ballots that are cast by precinct voting or vote by mail are separated. And then within those, it asks you if they're sorted further by location. Then it's going to ask a question about what size boxes do you use. There's preset dimensions saved already, but you can also input your own to make it fit for your needs. And then the last 2 questions are based on, do you store your boxes on pallets or shelves as well? There are preset dimensions within these 2, but you're also able to edit those to include whatever dimensions match the ones you use. So then if we go back up to the top, you're going to see the specific elections breakdown. So you're able to rename them to match whatever election you're actually storing for, so that it's easier for you to identify them. And then it's going to ask if this election has already happened or if it's an upcoming one, because that's going to dictate how we're actually using the calculations. So when it's a past election, you're going to input the actual quantity of the number of ballots that were physically cast. And then it's going to ask you the number of locations if you've indicated that it's sorted by location, as well as the number of ballot cards that were used for that election. But then when you switch to an upcoming election, it's based on the expected turnout using that number of registered voters you had previously inputted. And then it's going to ask what percentage of each of the submission types you've selected are expected to be resulting in the turnout. And then you'll also have the same questions about precinct and ballot card. So now if we calculate these results. you'll see that this gives you the total. So if you're also using the equipment side, it's going to combine all that. So you have one generic, here's how big our warehouse needs to be for this storage part. But then if you hit ballot storage, it'll actually give you a much more discrete breakdown. So it breaks it down by boxes and pallets. It'll also add shelves if we had selected that. So for here, it gives you the first election, which was the primary election, and then the breakdown for precinct voting specifically, as well as vote by mail, and then the total for both of those elections so that you can see how many boxes you need, as well as the cubic feet requirement and volume, and how much space is being unused in those boxes that you're actually using. And then we have another feature called the estimate ballot storage costs, which can be used if you're using some type of third-party paid facility to store your ballots in. So you can say whatever the average cost is to store a box, and then it'll ask you how many remaining months do you actually still need to retain those ballots for. And then you just indicate if each of those elections are actually being stored in a paid facility or if they're somewhere else. And once you hit estimate, it'll give you a projected cost of here's how much money you're going to have to spend based on that.
Oh, that's a lot of money. That's better.
That's a little better, yeah.
All right. And then there's another function in here too, right, Sarah?
Yeah, if you want to go to the equipment storage. Now you can put all the information in for ballot and equipment, then run results as well. You don't have to do them separately. They can be run at the same time. But the first thing within equipment is this pre-included list of equipment machines that you may already have in your facility. But if there's one that you have that's not listed, you can hit the Add Custom Item button. And within that feature, there's also a list of other materials that might be in your facility. So like folding tables, folding chairs, things like that, that you can enter the dimensions for to account for in this storage calculation. Under the hit the add.
Oh.
Under the, yeah,
Right here?
that one, and then select item. There you go.
Oh, look at this.
So if you want to do like folding tables, for example, and then you just input the average for those. All the dimensions. Perfect. And then add custom items. So now you have created your selected equipment list where it'll ask you to input the quantities for each items and then indicate if they're stored on shelves or pallets. So those items that were included in the beginning list that are the actual voting machines have pre-included dimensions, but just make sure that those actually match the items that you have, as sometimes models and different variations can have slightly different dimensions. So then once you indicate if shelves or pallets are selected, you're going to indicate the dimensions on the left.
Oh, I gotta go up here.
Yep.
That's right.
There you go. So
large pallet, big shelves. Bam.
So if you go to equipment storage, it now also has updated the total storage to include all of these things. And there you go. You have all the different number of pallets and shelves you'll need to account for these, as well as the overall space needed to include all of the necessary equipment.
This is amazing. And I think a lot of folks, I'm going to stop sharing. I think a lot of folks probably, my sense is they base some of these needs off of previous elections. But I think similar to how we talked about with the previous tools, being able to like forecast, being able to have a calculation is probably, at least it would have been in my case, really helpful as like an added, hey, here's what we need, why we need it, when we need it by kind of helper in lots of ways. So this is remarkable, Sarah. I think all the tools we've seen so far have been remarkable. And what I am most impressed by is I can't imagine how much work it requires on the back end to get this right in the tinkering. So kudos to all of you.
Thank you.
Kyle, we're gonna do the next one.
Yeah, let's close things out, Nick. Let me share my screen. I believe we're talking about a tool that's still in beta but is live, is available to the public, the Layout Designer.
Yeah, so this is the voting layout designer. There is currently an interface where you can log into this tool. So this will store any drawings you have up into a cloud that you can access only by logging in. So there's security there to make sure nobody sees your information. But the whole purpose of this tool is to provide a platform where you can quickly sketch out the layout of a polling place. So we're going to use the demo. Awesome. So whenever you're creating a new diagram, this is going to pop up and say, do you want to adjust the scale? So essentially, if you look in the background, there's a bunch of little squares everywhere that are called tiles in this tool. And we can adjust the scale if we're building a much larger location, but for now, we'll just keep it at 1. Makes things a little bit simpler. And then you have 3 options for getting started, essentially. So you have default settings where you're going to have to draw everything from scratch. There are some templates, but maybe I'm biased, the coolest feature is the custom exterior dimensions. So if you select that option, it'll pop up asking if you want the width and length. And we're going to enter 20 and 26 or 24. It doesn't really matter. We get to draw, so we'll have more fun. Cool. So when you create the diagram, it will automatically build the exterior walls of your facility. So as you can see, we can't really get the entire model on the screen. So we have a zoom feature on the right-hand side, so we can zoom out until we can see the majority of our diagram.
I feel like I should be doing one of TJ's sound effects. There we go. There we go. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. So now we can see the majority of it. But maybe you don't have a perfectly rectangular room and there's some entrance or lobby area sticking off the right-hand side. So we can use the regular draw tool. So this will be similar to something like Microsoft Paint or some kind of editing tool that you might have used previously. So we're already on the draw tool. You can select that by clicking that tool button on the top bar or pressing D on the keyboard. And then somewhere on that right-hand side, we have exterior wall selected, so you can start drawing some kind of entrance area. So let's just build one wall of that for now. Okay, awesome. So maybe it's a little bit time consuming to draw a bunch of individual tiles, even if you can click and drag. So let's use the line tool. So you can either press the line tool on the blue bar or press W on the keyboard. And then this is a 2-click design. So you click on your starting point and ending point for where you want that wall. And it will just draw the entire line for you. And then you can do that for our last wall to close us off here.
Oh.
Ooh, interesting. So clearly something went wrong there, but we can quickly correct that by using the undo button on the top right. So if you look at the left facing arrow, yep, that's the one. There we go.
I feel like I'm playing Sims right now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can build anything. So now we have 2 distinct rooms, and to differentiate the interior part from the exterior part, we can fill those in with a floor. So rather than having to paint every individual tile, we have like a bucket tool like you would see in MS Paint, and we can fill in the floor areas. So if you click inside the different rooms that you've created, we should see it turn gray. Fantastic. So every room has a door for the most part. So let's add in our doors on the left-hand panel. So that's where all our assets are selected or are listed. So we're going to select from there. We want a vertical door for a vertical wall, and we'll slap maybe 2 doors on that entrance. Awesome. So one thing that's really helpful when designing these layouts is indicating where you want voters to enter and exit to and from. So on the bottom left of the asset page, we have an entrance color and an exit color. So we can paint one of the doors as an entrance, and it'll just go underneath on the floor and won't delete the wall or the door that you created there. Great. So something that's also helpful for creating the placement of different voting equipment is if we know where our electrical outlets are, right? Because most of the equipment needs some kind of power source. So let's start placing those around the walls. This is up to you. What a great distribution of outlets.
We'll build like our dream. We've got all the.
I need 4 outlets for my hot tub.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can put that over here.
Awesome. Okay, so now that we have a good idea of where ideal spots for voting equipment are, which is apparently the entire room, which is great, we can start adding in some equipment. So we'll start with voting booths. So let's say our voting booth is 2 feet by 3 feet. It just makes things a little bit easier to see. So each tile is 1 foot. So you want to make a 2 by 3 rectangle.
3 rectangle like that.
Perfect. Throw a couple more of those in there. Great.
Kyle, you're a natural. You're gonna get picked up by
Oh,
your
man.
local election office.
All those years playing Sims that my mom said would never pay off.
Still
You get
has.
to you'll get to call yourself an artist after using this just
Yeah.
once, I guarantee it. So now it might be helpful to know what orientation the voting booths are in, so we can use the little yellow circle there to indicate where we want the voter to stand. So this will show directionality for which way the booths are facing. Awesome. And then maybe want to indicate that one of them is going to be accessible. So its placement might be very specific to our location, so we can mark that on the voting booth itself. So now we know that's going to be the accessible booth. And of course, we need somewhere to check in. And generally, check-ins are set up on tables. So we'll take the table asset and we'll draw like a 2-foot by 6-foot table, something standard.
In Sims, I always felt like I was so much better at building the houses than I was at taking care of the people. And that's been a common thread my whole life.
Thanks for
Yes.
sharing, TJ. All right, so now we can place poll workers throughout the environment here. Oh, I'm missing a piece of equipment. Do you want to add the last one, Kyle? It is the scanner.
Very important.
Yes, so this is a little bit unique in terms of how the asset is treated. So you can click somewhere, drop it down. Great. And now it's pretty small. Most scanners are not 1 foot by 1 foot. So we can quickly enlarge it by pressing G on the keyboard, or again, we can press the button on the top. And then that will show you what you can and can't select from. That's why everything is red there, because only the scanner can be selected. But once you click it, it automatically scales up. And it can do that a couple times, and then it resets back to 1 by 1. So let's make it 2 by 2. Perfect. And now we can go back into the draw mode.
Hey, Kyle and Nick, we've got a question in the Q&A asking
Sure.
if I imagine this tool is free, but it's asking them to create an account. So is this one a little different?
Yes, so this is still free. You can make an account if you want to. We help store those maps. We don't have access to them, but we have a database where the information for the maps is stored. You can share this with different teammates, so you can kind of not necessarily collaboratively edit. If you edit at the same time, that's not really going to work. But if you finish updating your drawing, send it to somebody else, they can get in there and update it. What we're showing right now is the demo version, so you can still download whatever map you create, but it won't be saving this interaction anywhere on the computer or in a cloud-based database. So 2 different methods. If you don't feel comfortable logging in, we totally understand. We have this demo mode where you can still create the maps.
And one thing you told me yesterday, Nick, when we spoke,
Mhm.
again, pulling back the curtain, the login lets you build out multiple maps. So for multiple voting locations, you can map out each one, whereas the demo is just kind of a one-to-one functionality.
Yep, that's totally correct. So if you think about it like Google Docs, you can have multiple document files, or in this case, layouts for your county, your state, whatever it may be. You can have a bunch of maps that you can jump into one of them, edit it, save it, and then go change another one or create one from scratch. And it stores all of those individually. All right. Do you want to throw a couple people in and then we can get to
Yeah.
exporting it?
It's really like Sims now.
So maybe we have people working our check-ins. So poll workers, we'll say that there's 2 at that table there. And then we'll have 1 more by the scanner. So I'm basing this off of what Rhode Island tends to do, where they have a check-in table with poll workers, and then they have a moderator, they're called, standing by the scanner. So we have those little labels on the left-hand side. And if you're thinking, well, I'm not from Rhode Island, I know there are some in the audience that are from Rhode Island, but if you're not, and this doesn't look like it's going to hit the requirements of what you need, we are working on customizable assets. So you can change those out, modify them, maybe even create one yourself so that the iconography and the labeling is more accurate to your voting locations.
Nick,
But great job.
This polling place is the size of Rhode Island, right?
Just about, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bigger, but
Thank you.
sure. Okay, so great drawing, Kyle. We can now export it to a PDF. So on the top right, you can click that PDF button. And so you don't lose your progress. It opens up in a new tab. Oh, we did forget to do one thing. If you remember, at the bottom of the page, we never added any notes.
Yeah.
Amazing. So generally, if you have a polling location that needs some kind of fix on election day, maybe you need to add signage, you can enter some amount of information here. So maybe we're labeling the location. And if you do the login version, there are other methods for naming places that will be presented on the diagram. But there's also this notes part if you need to, send some information to the poll worker before setup or during setup. Perfect. Coffee nearby. We need that. Okay. So now if we click PDF again, we should see the updated diagram there. And now the notes are listed at the bottom of the page. And then this uses the print to PDF feature that a lot of browsers just have as standard. So you'd be able to save this as a PDF and then maybe distribute it for setup on election day or ahead of time on election day. Yeah, and then that's basically it. You can always jump back into that diagram, modify it, share it with teammates if you're in the logged in version, and then have a collection for past or future elections.
Kyle,
Awesome.
Kyle, in New England, I don't think they call it coffee. I think they just call it Dunkin'.
That's fair. Is that I know that's true in Massachusetts. Is that down south in Rhode Island still the case?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly.
Awesome. One question I had, Nick, when we logged into this for the first time, it did name that this was still in beta.
Mm-hmm.
What you mentioned a little bit, but can you talk a little bit more, just to pull it back, what planned features you have for the full version? What gets us from beta to full?
Yeah, great question. So right now we're working on improving the different UI, the drawing features. We know some things still feel a little bit clunky, but despite this looking like a maybe simple drawing tool, there is a lot on the background that goes into this. So we're always trying to improve, find optimizations. But also, as I said, the assets we know are built for a very specific location right now. So we're working on building those out to be more expansive. Maybe you can upload your own set of assets that are custom to your location. And then there are a bunch of other cool features we could do in the future, which is why we're calling this a beta. So maybe you want to simulate voters moving through the system, or you want arrows to indicate the voter should travel from this point to this point in our diagram. So we have a lot of ideas. We're trying to prioritize and figure out which ones we want to include for the final release. But this beta version offers the fundamental drawing features that we've been trying to provide.
Yeah. And then I know sometimes with the beta, people feel like, oh, maybe I'll hold off and I'll wait and I'll just use the full version when that comes out. But my understanding is that is the opposite of what you want.
Yes, that is correct. So we have an amazing team of computer scientists at URI that are helping us work on this, and they were very diligent when designing this beta version. They assured me that any future update we implement, any change, can be directly laid on top of what exists there. So if you draw a diagram and we pass some kind of big update, you will not lose that drawing. You can open it back up, you can modify it with any new updated features, and it should not interfere. So the last thing we wanted is for someone to draw, 400 diagrams of locations, and then they all get wiped or they're completely unusable because we passed some update we thought was cool or thought would be useful. So we tried to make sure that would never be the case.
So you want everybody to use it now with the full confidence that it will stay usable so that they can test it, share their feedback, and maybe have some input into those future functions.
Absolutely. And as part of a beta, we're always looking for feedback because we know it's in its earlier stages of development. So now's the time. If you have really cool ideas, feel free to share them with us and we'll see what we can do to implement them.
It's not like when Sims 1 shifted to Sims 2 and I lost my whole village.
Yeah, we would never disappoint you like that.
Okay, very good. We do have some questions in the Q&A. I don't think we're going to get to all of them, but I will download these for the folks at URI and happily connect them with the folks who asked them. First question, is the ballot marking station, this is from the WaitTime app, for voting booths or for ballot marking devices?
Great question. It is designed for voting booths.
So handwritten paper?
Exactly, yep.
Okay, very good. All right, here we go. Can it differentiate between, and this is the VoteTime app. Can it differentiate between an electron? Oh, it's the same question. Sorry, this is for, all right. Has URI created a tabulation system estimator?
We have not. Hi, Tommy. We have not, but happy to connect and see what we can do to build something like that.
All right. Question here is, the wait time estimator indicates that up to a 30-minute voting process is okay. Is there a target or industry standard for processing vote by mail ballots?
Another fantastic question. So this is more specific to a jurisdiction, what you're comfortable with, what you expect on an election day or an early voting period. We generally say that the standard is around 30 minutes just because people tend to get a little bit frustrated waiting longer than that. But you can use these numbers however they're presented. That gauge is more of like an idea of where you stand on wait time. So it's not the end of the world if it's 32 minutes, for example.
Amazing. Next question here is, could you use this tool, or do you have another tool that could be used for manual processing of ballots? So I think an example is your equipment is not able to be used. You have to count by hand. I would imagine that it's just different inputs. Is that correct, Nick?
So it could be if you did custom processing times on any of the tools that allow for that, that would kind of achieve the same goal. So you could like simulate that. However, we may or may not have other tools that are in the works that might address that a little bit better. I can't say any more than that.
All right, that sounds a little foreboding. All right. Simple one. Can we change the category titles to adapt to our terminology? This is for the storage app. For example, we do not store ballots on a pallet or shelf.
Yeah, so we're always looking for more customizable features to include in any of the tools. So if you store them a completely different way, we would love to hear about it because it also might change our calculations on the back end. And we don't want to try and present some number that's not a good estimate for your location.
TJ, will you send a follow-up email with a list of all of the apps? Absolutely. Get it? Absolutely. All right. Thank you for the heart reaction. I live for those. Do you have any tools available for calculating staffing levels? That is, how many temp staff will be needed for election prep?
So that is not something we currently have, but we have heard from folks that there might be a higher demand for a tool that does something like that. So it's something we're actively trying to workshop, figure out where to go with that tool. Hopefully we will in the future.
All right. Well, we are at 1 minute to go, or a little more than 1 minute to go. So I'm going to throw it to Kyle. Any last words, Kyle, before I close this out?
Nothing in particular, just to repeat the thing that Nick told me to repeat, which is that these are all free tools available now. Please play with them. No information is stored at EDI servers. It's all cloud-based. You are the only one with access to it. But if you want to play around and provide feedback, this fantastic group of folks is constantly working to make these tools better and to build more tools out that can be of use. So please don't hesitate to both use these tools and reach out with any thoughts you may have.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to Kyle. Thank you to the Mechanics of Democracy Laboratory. Thank you to everybody who came and listened to our weird jokes about The Sims.
Thank you, TJ, for making those jokes.
I'm gonna go download it on my computer now. My afternoon is just completely gone. Thank you to everybody. Resources mentioned today, again, will be shared in an email. As always, the inbox at the elections group is always open. So please email us at support@electionsgroup.com. And thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye, folks.